The time is now 7:01 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum present?
Yes.
We will move on to item B, the agenda, the invocation and pledge of allegiance. The prayer and pledge of allegiance will be by Stephanie Otto, commander of the Jeremy E. Ray American Legion Post 324.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Guide our hearts and our mind in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda is the presentation of the Police Department employee for the first quarter of 2023 by Stephanie Otto, commander of the Jeremy E. Ray American Legion Fund 324.
Thank you. Each quarter, the American Legion Post 324, Jersey Village Police Department Employee of the Quarter Selection Committee meet to review a list of candidates selected by their peers. This is in no way a simple task, as all of the employees of the department are outstanding individuals and serve a purpose greater than themselves. For the first quarter of 2023, the American Legion selection for Officer of the Quarter is Officer Irvin Guzman. Officer Guzman has shown a high level of professionalism, dedication, and productivity. He loves his job and his work performance shows it. We thank you for your service and dedication to the department and in our community. All these attributes work together to ensure that Jersey Village Police Department works smoothly and provides our residents peace of mind and makes Jersey Village a destination community. There were several other officers that were nominated this quarter. We thank you for your continued performance and dedication to our community as well. Officer Guzman. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is citizen comments. Citizens who have signed a card and wish to speak to the City Council will be heard at this time. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, unless the subject matter and the comment is on the agenda, the city staff and City Council members are prevented from discussing the subject and may only respond with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes for their comments to the City Council. First up, we have Mr. Simbridge.
Michael Stimbridge, 15422 Jersey. My wife and child and I have waited since 2018, maybe 2017. I can't remember when the Bayou project was approved, but we have waited years now, and it still is not complete. It keeps getting delayed. We see the Harris County Flood Control District like a government mafia now. They have delayed. They have delayed and delayed. I have talked round and round to personnel up there. They give me the runaround. Jeremy Phillips, Rusty Lannon. They lie so much I don't even call them anymore. It's ridiculous. And y'all got this clique in City Council, and I wanted to speak to the mayor tonight. Mayor Warren, he's not here. This is not really fair. He should be here. I wanted to speak to him. But this clique needs to be cracked. Well, we're endorsing James Fields. We want change now. The bayou has not been widened. It's a county project, but you should have lobbied. You should have done something. I know you went, James Singleton. I know you went. I know Andrew Mitchum went. I know Mr. Blease went. But since then, nothing. We needed help, Bobby Warren, if you're listening. We needed your help. Elevations have happened. You did apply us, Mr. Blease, last year or the year before. We failed, maybe because of our BCE. But we saw people get elevated. There's been work on Wall Street. There's been work on Capri. We saw trucks diverted, Jack Kegel's trucks diverted to Wall Street and Capri from off of the bayou, boots off the bayou. Soldiers, troops working there. This is wrong. And these projects have been done now, Seattle Street, everything but the bayou. This is crazy. And the people in East Jersey could have been elevated. Now, I know there's a tier zone, but it's not for everybody, tiers 3. Some people like us can't afford it. We don't have money tucked away. You know, I'm not a lawyer or some high gaining income. I don't have it. I don't have the money, the prowess, the financial muscle to move. I don't have it. We don't have it. My wife doesn't have it. We're very low income. This is ridiculous. And now the stadium? No stadium. Forget it. We will try everything in our power, Mr. Fields, everyone, all the citizens, to table that stadium, to get rid of it. We'll get new people in council to smash this clique if we have to. This is ridiculous. You got people still not medicated, and you want a ball stadium? This is ridiculous. Think about logic. And now a clubhouse, a golf course clubhouse? This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I like Bobby Warren. He's a great guy. He's a good man. He's a good worker, he's a good husband, everything. He passes all that litmus test. But he left us behind, and y'all left us behind. We totally endorsed Jim Fields. This is ridiculous. Get the bayou widened. And I know you say, well, the flood district's going to do it. They lie. They lie worse than the mafia. They will continue to lie through their filthy teeth.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we'll have James Fields.
Hello, my name is James Fields. I'm candidate for mayor this year. I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem and City Council for allowing me to contribute tonight. The first thing I've been campaigning that came to my attention, which is very concerning, is that the houses that are being lifted are having some serious foundation issues. The one person that I had spoken with, he said after 6 months, and this is really, like I said, can you imagine? After 6 months, he had a half-inch crack in his sheetrock, a half-inch. The remedy that he told me, they just put caulking in it. So if we're going to do any more lifting after this, I'm really concerned this is going to be a class action lawsuit because the city is the one that got the FEMA grants and told these people about this as a remedy for flooding. In the future, if anybody else gets the houses lifted, I strongly suggest that we get a structural engineer out here before they do it at the city's expense to make sure the job is done right or it's even feasible. Because now we have houses that are lifted, they can't sell, and they're worse off than if it would have flooded. Second thing, Founders Day. It was fun. Again, when I was making the circles, the one thing that was very disturbing, people were drunk. They were slurring. And I don't think that's the way you conduct an event for children. Our founders knew better, and that's why they did not want alcohol served at a public event with children. And worse than that, at 9:30, as I was leaving, I saw one of the servers who was serving alcohol there chugging a champagne bottle. That is unacceptable. Last thing is, would you please, can I get an answer on this real quick? Well, I got one more comment here. We still have flood issues. We have an issue, we have a person here, Mr. Stembridge, is obviously in a terrible situation. So I hope in the future that we spend more time to see if we can get some of these flooding issues remedied. Now, this is a question this is a question, not a comment. Will you please move the consent resolution 2023-14 to the regular session? That's a question. It's not a comment section. This is a question. According to Section 551.007 of the Open Meetings Act, you know what it says? Anybody? I'll read it to you. Provides that the government body to which the section applies shall allow each member of the public who desires to address the body regarding an item on an agenda to address the body regarding the item at the meeting before or during the body's consideration of the item. I do believe it was the mayor's decision to have it before. Am I wrong? That's a question.
Can you restate the question?
Oh, sure. The right to ask the governing body a question. That's what Section 551.007 of the Open Meetings Act. And Mayor had a chance. He said the rules could be before or during. So we're before. So I'm asking some questions here. These are not comments.
Mr. Fields, there's the ability to ask the questions, but the council doesn't have to answer you. So it sounds like you've asked to have an item moved off the consent, and the council can take action to do that if it wills.
So I don't get answers. So anybody that comes here,
Can you repeat it? I just didn't.
I'm
I was
sorry.
typing what you were saying, so I didn't hear what you wanted to be moved.
sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, it is the Resolution 2023-14, and it ties back to the cost of the, here, what does it say here?
Jim, I'll be pulling that off the consent agenda.
Yeah.
I will be asking to have that removed. I'll be removing that from the consent agenda to the regular agenda, if that was your question.
Yes. Thank you very much, Councilwoman McCray. So in the future, nobody will be able to ask questions in the future. I know my time's out, but I should get my time back. So that's unfortunate. We don't have, that we can't even, you're our representatives and we can't ask questions. Anyway, thank you again.
I think we just needed clarification on the question. Did you have one more point that you would like to make?
No, that was it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Pro Tem.
Austin. Lifting houses is an incredibly complicated process. There's already engineers involved in that process, correct?
Correct. Before a home is ever elevated, a structural engineer goes through. They use their sonar techniques for the foundation to make sure it's structurally, the structural integrity is there so that it can be lifted. If they find something wrong, they'd have to remediate that or not lift the home.
I'm sorry. Next up is Mark Malloy.
Hi, my name's Mark Malloy, 7803 Hamilton Circle, past City Council member for the City of Jersey Village, Texas. Citizens' comments for the regularly held 04/17/2023 City Council meeting. Please make my verbal comments and documents given to the City Secretary a permanent record of this meeting. So Jim's already asked the question about item 5 on the consent agenda, Resolution 2023-14. And, you guys are saying that you're going to put that on the regular agenda, so I'm not going to go into that any further. But the other thing that I want to know is, the city has hired a contractor at risk to do the event center and the new clubhouse. And I want to know how much the guaranteed maximum amount that the contractor at risk is going to charge the City of Jersey Village, Texas, to build the Jersey Village government's new golf course clubhouse and the redevelopment of the original clubhouse into the Jersey Village government's new event center. I'm asking for the total cost, including everything involved with this project, and I mean both of the projects. If the Jersey Village government, anyway, that doesn't need to be said. I'm also asking the Jersey Village government to tell me and all the other Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers, why the Jersey Village government by themselves has chosen to spend $8.75 million of city revenue and to circumvent the Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers' right to be allowed to vote during a regularly held or special held election, specifically on the ballot, asking each voter a yes or no question. Do you want a new $8.75 million golf course, clubhouse, and event center? The city council that was made up of Mayor Bobby Warren and city council members Drew Wasson, Sherry Shepard, James Singleton, Michelle Mitchum, and Gary Wubenhorst were considering having a bond referendum placed on a recent past regularly held election to ask the Jersey Village taxpayers, citizens, voters to approve or not approve a $10 million bond referendum specifically to fund the construction of the $10 million golf course, clubhouse, and event center. There were 3 of the 5 at that time council members that had been in favor of going forward with the $10 million bond referendum to let the Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers, make the decision on if they wanted $10 million spent on a new golf course, clubhouse, and event center. But then the 3 council members decided not to take the chance that the Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers would vote no, we don't want a new golf course, clubhouse, and event center. The Jersey Village government had already accumulated, rat-holed away enough excess city revenue to go forward with the construction of their desired new golf course, clubhouse, and event center, but they were hoping they could get the Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers, to fork up the $10 million through a bond referendum, and then that would allow the Jersey Village government to have the already accumulated, rat-holed away money to spend on something else that the Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers would not get to approve of. The Jersey Village government in the next few years will have the debt of the city paid off. They have been having discussions that they will need to take on more debt because if they don't, they will have to reduce the tax rate. A current council member stated when they decided to spend the money on the golf course that they won't have much money left to spend on other projects. And his question was, where will we get more money to spend? So that's about all I had to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rick Faircloth.
Good evening, Council. I'm Rick Faircloth, 16010 Lakeview. I got a couple items that I want to talk about. One is our go-kart ordinance. We've had one phase of this, which was in 2019, I believe, or 2020. And then in 2022, we did an additional addendum to that ordinance, specifically about assuring that those golf cart owners were going to have a proper tag on their vehicle to make sure that they were identified by the Harris County. But in addition, I don't believe there was anything in the ordinance about safety or seat belts. I've had some conversation with the chief about seeing people with very young children riding in their laps. If they had a accident, it would be dreadful. And also, there are still vehicles out there that still don't have a license, and this went into effect January the 1st of this year. So just kind of bringing it to your guys' attention again. We've got ordinances. Some of them are being followed. There's nothing in there about seat belts, but if you have a car, you have to wear a seat belt. Why wouldn't you have one on a golf cart. The other one is the one that I talked to you folks about in February. As your budget period starts to come up again, and looking at the things to spend money on for the betterment of the city, I want you to make sure that you very thoughtfully think about, again, of increasing the over 65 exemption equal to what the disability is. It's important for folks who have been here 40 years plus like myself, and we need all of the financial help that we can get. And that's about all I've got tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mrs. Ashley Brown.
Ashley Brown, 15602 Lakeview. The Planning and Zoning Committee talked about the 5,000 feet, and I know Mr. Wasson heard my opinion on it, and I was very, very hardly shut down, but I still felt it was worth coming and sharing it with the rest of you. I am not saying I want an Airbnb next to me, I don't, but my wants shouldn't supersede someone else's rights. And I understand that it's in the courts and things can change, and we never know what next month might say. But we banned chickens, and chickens are still here. We ban things, and they still show up. And people should have the right to do with what they want at their house. I strongly believe, and if you're being safe and healthy and you're not a noise violation, then the government needs to stay out of my property. And so if someone came up and he talked about how his parents live 7 houses down, and he wants to turn it into an Airbnb, and he lives right there on Congo, but this new ordinance or the new restrictions won't allow it because 5,000 feet between Airbnbs. And I know he talked with you afterwards. I mean, he talked, and it was a really valid point. And I know all my friends think I'm crazy. My husband thinks I'm crazy. Like, I get it. But I just really believe in our rights. And if somebody says nothing, then it can be trampled. Even if the courts say you can ban it, does that mean you should ban it? Because maybe it's not Airbnbs today. Maybe it's who you love, who your kids are in your house, how many generations can stay in your house, how many people can you have over if your family is flooded from somewhere else and they have to stay with you. Like, where do you draw the line on what you do in your house? We already regulate how many square feet of our backyard we use, how many structures we can have, how many dog houses we can have. You can't have more than 4 dog houses because you can't have more than 4 structures. How many greenhouses you can have. You're already regulating the hell out of us. At some point, someone needs to stop it because we're supposed to be a conservative town. Aren't we supposed to protect our rights? I mean, we're supposed to be Texas. We're supposed to be all these different things. And the bigger the government, the more rights are violated. And so you're stepping into our rights. And again, I don't want an Airbnb next to me. But I got a neighbor who owns their house who parks their 18-wheeler next to my house. And because they're not there for 48 straight hours, there's nothing I can do. And you know what? That's their right. It's a public street. There's people that sell drugs down Jersey Drive the sheriffs have arrested. I mean, I'm more concerned about that than I am about an Airbnb. The Airbnb on Glamora, they talked to the Airbnb. They raised it to 25. Now there's no more problems. Ask Rick Bull if that's a true statement, because he and I have talked about it. There's regulation. Regulate the hell out of it with things that the chief can do. That's fine. But by making a barrier to entry of 5,000 feet is essentially a ban. And I don't think government should be in the position to ban us. You guys are all about progress. You want to bring in a stadium, do all these things to bring revenue to you guys, but you want to limit a person's ability to bring revenue to themselves. So what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. And again, I know every single one of my friends disagree with me, and my husband's like, if you go and say this, you can never run for office again. But that's just how much I believe in our rights. And I just feel like somebody should say it. So that's it.
Next up, we have Curtis Haverty.
I'm Curtis Haverty. I've lived here 33 years. I live on 15405 Ashburton. Taking a deep breath here. And I want to say thank you. You are our friends and our neighbors. And we voted for you gladly because we trust you. And you have got a good, reasonable approach to balancing what's good for the city and what's good for the individual, and you're keeping an eye 3 to 5 years down the road. And I want to thank you for that, because you're doing a great job. I'm part of the American Legion, and we believe in supporting our community, and we were happy to do that. And we came to this Founders Day event, and there was 3 other old white guys and me, and we cooked chili. We'd never done it before, and out of 4 teams, we came in 4th. So, and I tasted number 1's chili, and it tasted better. So I had a lot of citizens, a lot of friends came by, and some of you came by, and it was really nice. And we had these cool park benches with our name on it, and these cool picnic tables with our name on it. And this was a fabulous, fabulous event we had. We had officers, and we had commissioned officers from the fire department. It was safe. It just was fabulous. And we stayed afterwards and saw the fireworks, who one of our citizens supports. And I'm thinking, what other city in America our size could have this and have this fun and have all of these things for all these families? And I just got to tell you, you know, I'm part of the silent majority, and I want to say thank you, and up there too, Sherry, I see you. Keep doing what you're doing. You know, you are doing a great job, and I just want to say thank you from my heart.
And last but not least, Kimberly Anow.
My name is Kimberly Anow, and I live at 15601 Singapore Lane. As my 19th installment on Jersey Village, this past Saturday, our city residents and visitors celebrated Founders Day for the 67th birthday of the incorporation on April 16th, 1956, to avoid annexation by the city of Houston. Leonard Lee was an attorney who found out this annexation plan was underway, so Lee had a midnight ride to visit each homeowner in Jersey Village to explain the impending takeover, and a petition was signed by all residents which blocked the annexation. Lee became our first mayor and called the first city council meeting to order on June 18, 1956. Jersey Village is a city that operates as a home rule charter as adopted by electors and council in August 1986, with amendments over the years. This change can occur after the population is more than 5,000. The Municipal Code Section 1.02 explains the form of government as a council manager and is pursuant to provisions of and limitations of the U.S. Constitution, laws of the state of Texas, and by the Charter. All powers of the city shall be vested in and exercised by an elective city council. The council shall enact ordinances, adopt budgets, determine policies, appoint the city manager, and execute other powers and duties as prescribed in the charter. The code advises the city may use a corporate seal, may contract and be contracted with, may cooperate with the state, any agency, or the federal government to accomplish any lawful purpose for the advancement of the interest, welfare, morals, comfort, safety, or convenience of the city and its inhabitants. Article 2, the Council, Section 2.01, advises the Council shall be composed of a mayor and 5 other council members serving a term of 2 years. Filled by majority vote, Council places 1, 4, and 5 are elected on even-numbered years, while places 2 and 3, as well as the mayor, on odd-numbered years. The term limitations are no more than 3 consecutive 2-year terms as mayor, nor more than 4 consecutive 2-year terms as council member, or a combination of mayor-council member. Other items of interest in Section 2 of the Charter include council electing a mayor pro tem and may investigate the conduct of those affiliated directly with the city, though council are not allowed to instruct or request the city manager to appoint to or remove from office or employment any person, either publicly or privately. Rules of procedure include a majority of the members of council, excluding the mayor, to constitute a quorum with actions taken by a majority vote. The meetings of council shall be once per month and public, except where permitted by law to be closed in whole or part and held at City Hall or other public location. Article 5, Administrative Organization, explains council appoints the city manager, who shall be the chief administrative and executive officer of the city and is responsible for the efficient and economical administration of our city government, including employees. Duties include to propose and administer the budget, advise on the financial condition and future needs, enforce all city ordinances, and perform duties directed by council not inconsistent with the charter. The use of the council manager form of city government is quite common and well respected, as the manager is an experienced and educated professional able to handle business and financial issues of cities. Their appointment by council is to achieve the best results for the municipality and run a productive workplace. The accountability of this form of government, with structured organization of reporting roles and clear communication for resilient present and future, greatly ensures that our Jersey Village is the place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. There being no one else wishing to speak, we will continue on to the agenda item, which is the city manager's report. City Manager Bleets, do you have anything you'd wish to discuss?
Mayor and Councilors, the report's before you, and we'll have happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone on council have a question for the city manager? All right. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered routine in nature by the City of Council and will be enacted with one motion and vote. There will not be separate discussion on these items unless it's requested by a council member. In that event, the item will be removed to the consent agenda and considered a separate action. Does any councilor wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Ms. McRae?
I'd like to remove the resolution 2023-14 to the regular agenda, please. Item 5.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Before I make that motion, I just wanted to say something about items 2 and 3. Effectively, they are changes to city code regarding that planning and zoning has passed in their last meeting, and council has received that report via, or we will officially receive it when we pass the consent agenda. But it will also call for a public hearing. And one of those changes, as Ms. Brown had indicated, is a proposal to change something regarding short-term rentals and distance between them. So I'd encourage anyone who has anything to say about either of these public hearings to prepare to attend the May 17th council meeting. It's new night. Anyway, I digress, but just calling to make awareness and give you guys a chance to let your voice heard about these specific topics.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to pass the consent agenda with the exception of item F5.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? And the motion carries. All right. Now we'll start on with our regular agenda. We'll start with item number 5 of the consent agenda, sorry. Item number 5 on the agenda is consider resolution number 2023-14, approving the max price for the clubhouse. Austin, please. Robert, sorry.
Robert. Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem.
So this item of the agenda is to review the preliminary estimate that was presented in March. I wanted to share a few updates from March as we worked on the preliminary estimate. Preliminary estimates were evaluated, confirmed into final estimates, which was being presented here today. FF&E for the new building came in lower. We were able to utilize that savings in the renovation portion, reducing the FF&E budget roughly $42,000. The new building contingency has been reduced $50,000 as a majority of that project has been bid on. This credit has been applied to the renovation GMP allowance. A reduction alternative for the new building and existing interior ceiling has been reviewed and accepted, which has reduced the total budget by $30,000. This will be reflected on this GMP. Soft cost fees have been updated and finalized, which reduces soft costs $58,000. $15,000 of it was from specialty consultants, and $9,500 from changing contingency was released. $33,800 will be deducted from the design fee. These contingencies were released as we're deep enough into the project where we can foresee them not affecting or having any problems with the budget. The entry portal alternate has been moved from the existing building to the new building with a reduction of $23,000 from the preliminary estimate, as the new construction option was a more feasible option, practical, financial, and from an execution standpoint because the building hasn't been constructed yet. This credit will be reflected on the renovation GMP. Staff recommends accepting a lighting alternate that adds additional exterior lighting to the new canopy of the existing building for a total of $15,000. This amount included in the canopy position in this GMP as well. I wanted to point out there are some value engineering that will be considered during the project that has not been approved yet, but we will take a look at the soffit in the existing building and discuss the potential of removing that soffit and going with a more industrial look. That could potentially save some money. And then the design team is also going to consider reducing the number of piers on the existing building canopy, which would reduce it from 25 to like 18. This could save some money as well. So factoring all the adjustments and credits since the last council meeting, the renovation GMP, including the roof and canopy, along with $100,000 in allowances, comes to $1.9 million, and the additional FF&E budget approval amount needed tonight for the existing building will be $50,000. This renovation GMP with allowances combined with Resolution 2023-11 brings the total project budget to $8,728,953, which is an increase of $18,830 from the last total number presented in March. Tonight's resolution represents the GMP for the renovation portion and the project amount of $1,933,613, along with the FF&E in the amount of $50,000, and staff recommends approval of the resolution.
So, Robert, because of the FF&E, that's what makes that total a little larger than the number we saw last month. I mean, after you net out and add and subtract.
Yeah, some of the estimates came back higher on certain things. We were able to reduce some in other categories. Combined with the accepting of the alternate to add additional exterior lighting, that's the delta. That represents the delta of $18,830.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion?
I just want to say something about paying for this with cash versus bonds. I am against the city going to debt. I'm grateful that we're going to pay off our debt in the next few years. It will present other challenges. But the other challenge that comes up is, as we found with the Seattle Street project, is that there are going to be projects, mainly infrastructure projects, that will probably have to go into debt if we want to keep replacing streets at the pace we're doing. And we're now a 67-year-old city. We have infrastructure that will need to be replaced, and so on and so forth. We've planned for that, but as we've discovered, our inflation rate that we use in our calculations is just now a little bit off thanks to these past couple years. So that may require us to either, one, slow down the pace of street improvement and other improvements of infrastructure, and or take out more bonds to cover some of this. Those are discussions we will have as a city multiple times, I'm sure, as a council, in fact, in May. But when it comes to the golf course, that was one course of action that was presented to us. We had a bondsman the city bondsman came up and gave us an introduction into bonds because most of us weren't familiar with that. And it was one item we were looking at. But when we crunched the numbers and realized we didn't have to take out debt, I think all of us wholeheartedly decided to pay cash for what we could get. And so I am going to vote for this. And yeah, $8.7 million is a heck of a lot of money, but I think it's something that will return for the city for years to come, tangibly and intangibly.
And I will say, streets are nearing the 50-year mark, and that's about as long as that type of structure is meant to withhold. So we're right on target for really getting ahead of when things need to be replaced. And I mean, I love our plan. I think we're very thoughtful in time before things get out of control and we have a bigger mess to clean up there. So now, is there a motion to pass or to consider Resolution 2023-14?
I think all of the discussions, anyone's interested can go back and listen to those meetings. It was all about how we shouldn't take out debt, and that would be a bad idea, and if we should always avoid that if possible. But some people want to mischaracterize it. I move that we approve Resolution 2023-14.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Now we will move on to the regular agenda. Item number 1 on the agenda is consider resolution number 2023-15, reviewing and accepting the 2022 annual comprehensive financial report and the 2022 single audit report. Isabel Cato, Finance Director.
Yes, Mayor. Stephanie Harris from Bill Harris Pachasik is here to make the presentation.
All right, Ms. Stephanie, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for that introduction. I am one of the partners with Belt Harris Pachacek, and it's my pleasure to be here with you this evening. Page 17 is our official report to City Council. Very pleased to say that we are issuing a clean, unmodified opinion on the city's financial statements. Unmodified being the highest level of assurance as the city's independent auditor that we can provide that the financial statements are materially correct and that all disclosures required by generally accepted accounting principles were included. I'd like to just give you a brief highlight of the financial statements for the 2022 fiscal year. If you were to look at a hard copy, and I know you are all looking at a digital copy, so I apologize, I'm not sure page numbers for you, but page 34 is a statement of net position. This particular presentation is full accrual, which simply means that we have accounted for all the city's long-term assets, which are your capital assets, as well as any long-term liabilities. You ended the 2022 year with approximately $125.2 million in assets. If you were to compare this to the prior year, that was an increase, most notably within the city's investment in capital assets. Total liabilities were just over $13 million. Again, if you were to compare this to the prior year, that was a healthy reduction in your long-term liabilities as well as your current liabilities. Some of that was due to timing of construction invoices in the prior year. Additionally, the city continued to pay down its debt, which will be completely retired, it looks like, in 2027. Additionally, TMRS had higher than expected investment earnings on the city's pension plan with the state. As a result, you also saw a significant reduction in your long-term pension liability. You ended the year with just over $111.9 million in net position. Again, the majority of that represents the city's long-term investment in capital assets. If you were to turn the page to 36 and 37, this is a sideways presentation of a traditional income statement or the statement of activities. Again, this particular statement is full accrual, so there'll be some non-cash items included within the financial statements, most notably depreciation expense on the city's assets. Total expenses for the year are just over $25 million. That does include both governmental and business type activities. Approximately $7.2 million represented the city's business type services for both water and sewer, as well as the provision of a golf course. Total governmental activities was just over $17.8 million in terms of all your traditional municipal functions of public safety, public works, parks, and general government. If you follow that over to the right, you'll see the city collected direct charges for services. These are things that are directly intended to offset a particular cost of just over $9 million. You had operating grants and contributions of approximately $3 million, capital grants and contributions of just over $5 million. For the year, you had a net expense of $7.9 million. If you were to follow that presentation down, you will see a category referred to as general revenues. These are all the city's revenues that can be used to support any municipal function, the majority of which represents both ad valorem taxes as well as sales tax dollars. With $14.4 million recognized for the 22 fiscal year, you saw an overall increase in your net position of just over $6.5 million. Page 42 and 43 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This particular one is modified accrual, which is also the same basis by which you adopt the city's general fund operating budget. Total revenues for the year were just over $25.8 million. Total expenses, including payments on long-term debt as well as any capital outlay, were just over $23.9 million. After some interfund transfers, the city saw again an overall positive increase in its fund balance of $2.3 million. In terms of just evaluating the city's health, one of the benchmarks that outsiders may use is to look at the ending fund balance within the general fund. The benchmark would be at least 3 months or 25%. Now, there are other subjective factors that should be taken into consideration in terms of targeting a particular fund balance, most notably susceptibility to natural disasters and other geographical considerations. The city's ending fund balance of $12.2 million was a healthy 76% of your 2022 operating expenses. Additionally, we did conduct a single audit. Again, the single audit is required when the city expends more than $750,000 in federal grant dollars. The city had just over $3.3 million in grant expenses for 2022. We did test the coronavirus program, and very pleased to also say that based on the testing of that particular grant program, we are also issuing an unmodified opinion on the city's compliance with those federal award programs. I'd be happy to take any questions.
I was glad that you brought up the reserves and how increased reserves are sometimes a good idea for geographical location. Remember when Hurricane, not Rita, Harvey came through, and Allison, both times the city was able to quickly respond because we had cash on hand, and that's one of the reasons that we keep that cash on hand.
Yes.
And I'll just circle back to having almost a 9-month reserve is no small feat, and the $3.3 million in grants, that is amazing. But he was saying that listening to a 5-10-year plan, we have a lot of structures that are about 50 years old, our streets, and some big projects coming in the next 5 to 10 years. And so having that reserve in place is so important that even if we had a natural disaster, nobody will have to, be negatively impacted on, we're going to have to push this to next year, or we're going to have to push this to next year, and then it become a problem. So kudos to the staff and the city for just excellent planning and being very conservative. And I also wanted to touch on one more thing. Or were you going to talk about the pension? A lot of cities right now are having a lot of difficulty funding their pension. And they're taking away from city projects like streets, anything that you guys need, because they have to fund that. And Jersey Village is sitting way over the low bar of 80%. I think we were like 86%, something very, very...
It was high.
It's insanely high. So our city takes care of
94%.
staff. 94%. Holy crap. Our city takes care of their former employees. Our city takes care of current employees. And our city takes care of its citizens. So, good job.
Well, that shows we're not. A lot of those cities are short because they're what's the saying, stealing Peter to pay Paul. They're not funding it because they know, well, I can pay that later. And historically, we've not done that. We pay as you go. We pay for what we need to pay now, and not steal from the future, which just further pushes us towards having to pull debt.
Regarding the $1.9 million fund balance increase that you mentioned earlier, that's a large percentage of revenue, but also of expenses, right? It's, out of $16 million. What are some ways that came to be, at least if you're able to dive into a little bit of that, or how do cities accrue that, other municipalities accrue a fund balance like that?
So fund balance is, again, in terms of just strictly definition, would be the difference between the city's assets as well as current assets as well as its current liabilities. You generally are going to accumulate a fund balance when you budget for a particular year and not all of those things that were budgeted were completed. As well as if revenues exceed expectations, if the city's doing a good job of monitoring and staying on top of various operating costs. Those are also other ways to come in over expectations for the budget and accumulate fund balance.
So with a fund balance of $1.9 million, and if we had that trend over time, that's how a city could accumulate a cash reserve of 70%, 6%, 9 months expenses, et cetera, and put them in a good standing with the city, the federal government, and other things. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? No. All right. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2023-15.
I second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to serve the city.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is mayor and council comments. I'll start with you, Sherry.
I'd just like to say thank you. It's echoing really bad, sorry. Thank you to city and staff, Isaac, Robert, on all the hard work for the Founders Day this weekend. I know all of the rest of you sitting up on the dais will have the same comment to say. Unfortunately, COVID has hit my household, so I wasn't able to enjoy it with the rest of you, but my son was able to volunteer, and he did come home with lots of praise and lots of observations of people working really hard to make the day wonderful for everyone. So I do appreciate all the hard work and for providing volunteer opportunities for high school students as well as others in the community, because I know it's a really great opportunity to get to meet new people and to be a part of the city. So I appreciate all of that this weekend and wish I could have been there.
We missed you. All right, Jen?
I just kind of want to echo some of Sherry's sentiments. We thought the Founders Day my family thought it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed the dunking booth tank since it was 1,000,000 degrees. But we had a great time, and we really enjoyed it. In fact, some of our neighbors actually flew back. They have had to relocate temporarily for a few years to Portugal, and they flew in for the long weekend to be able to attend, and that was really cool to see them come out and enjoy it. Other than that, that's about it.
Mr. Singleton?
I unfortunately was also not able to make Founders Day, but I heard it was a great success. My kids and my wife thoroughly enjoyed it. Got a couple of pictures from it, and I just appreciate all the work that all the staff did. I know that every department's involved in it, and it is a great thing that we do. Really appreciate all the work that went into it from staff and all the volunteers that are involved. I know it's not possible to put on that event without the large number of volunteers that are involved. Early voting is going to start soon. Get out and vote. And that's it.
Mr. Watson?
I second all the comments about Founders Day. It was great. And I can't wait for a birthday celebration next year. To my right is Mayor Pro Tem Michelle Mitchum, and I've been here through two new mayors and one Mayor Pro Tem, now two Mayor Pro Tems who have had to take the handle. It is not easy, and I think you did it with flying colors. So thanks for stepping up. Couple things preceding. James mentioned voting. Please go out and vote and do your part, civic duty. Early voting starts a week from today. We will keep your eyes out for the agenda. There before the next city council meeting, there will be a open retreat for about the staff's upcoming expectations for the next year and years to come to help prepare us for the budget session, which is in July. So mark your calendars for the third Monday in July to come to those meetings. There's a few people out here who have attended those before. They will tell you that they may not be exciting, but they are fruitful, and it's how we prioritize our plans. The other thing was, before our next city council meeting, property tax protests are due May 15th. So please do your part. If you think your market value is higher than it should be, file a protest. And that's due May 15th. And that's my list. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I stumbled a few times, but I got it through. Thank you. Founders Day was amazing. I think I got at least 6 or 7 comments on the benches and picnic tables. Very, very impressed with the layout this time. I can't even recall any negative feedback I've received for this event. So I know that they put a lot of effort into it. Great job. I also enjoyed being dunked. I think Mrs. Brown's daughter got me. She was one of my first ones. Yeah, that girl has an arm on her. Yeah, no, she got me on like the second one. So with that being said, City Council is now going to retire into a closed session at 7:59 p.m. and pursuant with the Texans Open Meetings Act 551.072, deliberations about real property in Section 551.071, consultations with attorney in connections with the following item. Pursuant to the Texans Open Meeting Act 551.072, deliberations about real property and Section 551.071, consultations with attorney, a closed meeting to deliberate the potential and possible sale, exchange, or value of real property located within TERS 3. We will return to open session and continue the remainder of tonight's agenda after the closed session deliberations are concluded. Whew, that's a long one. The closed session was adjourned at 9:06 p.m. with no official action or vote was conducted during the closed session. The next item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2023-16, approving the sale of land in tax increment reinvestment zone number 3 and authorizing city manager to sign any necessary documents.
We're going to skip that agenda item.
We're going to skip the rest of this. Being there's no further agenda items in this meeting, the meeting is adjourned at 9:07.
Good night, y'all.